It's great to be here. Great to see students. Jen and Lindsay, thanks for being here. Undergraduate Research Day. It's the culmination of our academic year. So I'm not going to say semester because it's work students have done throughout the year. And we're celebrating the amazing research and accomplishments that our students have done. We're so proud of our students. It's a great day for just being engaged, and it's brings our community together. And I guess, I mean, I could show this, we could show the schedule now, or we could show it after. Or what would you like me to do, Jen? Just run through what the day looks like, or?
Yes. How about we have you run through what the day looks like?
Okay. So, so it's a full day. It starts off at 8:30 a.m. We have our kickoff event, which is called the RSC 301 Showcase. And this is a culminating event for our capstone RSC course, RSC 301. So all students that are taking that course, so there's 5 to 7 sections that we run per semester, all the students meet together, and the students share what they did in the course, their service project, their experiential learning, their engagement with the community. And we invite community members, and we invite faculty and staff to sit with the students at the tables, and each student at the table gives a pitch where they talk about their service and their engagement work and connect it to their career. So you'll see that starts at 8:30, that kicks off the event. And we do this by design. It gets people on campus there early, ready to start the day. The faculty and staff are already there, and then they can participate in the rest of the Undergraduate Research Day activities that follow. So yeah, we open with the showcase at the Armory Fieldhouse, and then you can see there's overlapping events on the schedule. Whoever's attending can jump in and pop in wherever they want to go. If you click on the arrows, and this is open on the Sage website, you can click right into this. You can see the names of the students in each session. So we've got some artists, and they're actually in the art and design, or in Alpaca, actually. So we've got events in Alpaca, in the Armory, and in the art and design building too, I think, as well. But we have, I want to say, probably every major represented somewhere during this day. We've got oral presentations happening primarily in the morning. Um, and then in the afternoon, we move towards a poster session and a nursing roundtable. And we've got an online, the Rev. I feel like I'm just jumping all over the place, but I mean, I'm so excited about it. We've got so many different events, and yeah, that's what the day looks like. The pictures maybe speak better than what I can say to show the engagement and all the students that are involved. The president looking at the posters, and yeah, there you have it.
Wonderful. Thank you. And could you talk a little bit about the volume of participation, Sarah? Because that was so impressive in terms of the number of students you have who participate in this day.
Right. Well, like I said, when we start off the day with the showcase, that's 120 or so students, sometimes a little bit more, who are presenting their pitches about their service work. And then in the individual sessions, some of them, it depends on what's happening. There's high honors in biology where I think there's 4 speakers, and then other sessions might have like 20. Our posters, we have, I want to say, 72 posters, I
Mhm.
think, this semester or this academic year. So altogether, if I had to add them, I was trying to get the totals, and I don't have a total number for you right now. But
Hundreds of students is what it's looking
yes,
like
yeah.
based on the PowerPoint, which is really amazing.
And there's students that are doing overlapping. So I started counting, and then I realized, oh, I already counted that person. They're doing this, this, and this. So I can't give you exact numbers, but John and Kira are 2 individuals who are featured in several areas of the program due to their involvement. In some cases, there's students that do a group project poster for biology in a group, and then they do 1 or 2 other individual research posters on different topics. So it's just amazing to me as I'm putting the schedule together. I'm trying to put their posters next to each other so that one person can hop around amongst 3 posters. I mean, it's incredible. So we have a lot of engagement. Um, yeah.
Thank you. So, without further ado, we want to kick it off to our students. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves, introduce themselves, and then share a little bit about their work. And then we're going to get into discussing the meaning of their work. Why do this? What is the benefit to them as students to be able to do that? So, I'm going to start with Kira. You were the first person on the slide, so I'm going to pull up your slides while you share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. All right. How's my microphone? Am I good?
You're good.
Beautiful. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Kira Weatherwax. I'm a senior studying psychology here at Sage. I have a minor in history. Um, and I am from Enosburg Falls, Vermont, which is a tiny little town far to the north. And I am hoping to pursue a career in school counseling. And I also have very, again, broad interest in history. I'm hoping to also further that education in some capacity eventually, but school counseling is my big next step. So I'll be pursuing a graduate program here at Sage to make some strides in that. Um, so I have a couple of research endeavors that I've been involved in that I'm going to be talking a little bit about. So the one that's pulled up here is one that I have gotten a lot of positive reception to because it's a little quirky, it's a little fun. So I was in Dr. Tanya Moutre's History of Healthcare Medicine class during the fall semester this year. And one of the like final projects that she assigns is actually a creative project. So we can like take any element of the course and just somehow creatively represent that with any kind of project you really want to do. A lot of people made like herb gardens or like little creations from like old medical recipes. It's very fun. I am a nerd. I really like playing video games. So I chose to basically represent a nursing convent in the game Minecraft, which, for those who are unfamiliar, it is essentially digital Legos. Like you can just sort of build anything. And so I learned a lot about what's called digital heritage. That is a way that we can preserve and represent historical sites that maybe we don't have access to anymore. So I basically used this game and synthesized a bunch of research about what a nursing convent would have maybe looked like. And I built a model of it in this game, took a bunch of screenshots of it, and based all of the elements that were in that model off of things from the course. So, like, there was, for example, a garden that I built in it, and the plants and herbs that were represented were actually from like a book from a convent that had actual like recipes in it. So that was a lot of fun. It was very creative, a very fun way to spend my time. And I feel like this was a particularly important project for me because I did not realize until I took this course the very, very fundamental role that nuns had played in creating our hospital infrastructure. And Dr. Mudre, like that was very much something that she opened my eyes to. So we think of medical history, and I think we automatically think of like Louis Pasteur and like a lot of men that made very big contributions during like the Enlightenment, but we don't see a lot of this labor that nuns had been doing for centuries. So that was a very fun way to, I guess, sort of reconstruct that labor that's sort of been sidelined or not maybe appreciated as much as it otherwise could be. And this picture that's on this slide here was actually at the 2026 Capital District Feminist Studies Consortium, where I presented it. And that's my poster there. You can see like screenshots from the model. The little tiny book in the center is the one that I got a lot of those plants and herbs from that I mentioned earlier. So this was a lot of synthesizing of research and kind of cooking up something that was just a lot of fun, and people were very excited about it because it's sort of unusual. Like you don't usually um, think of Minecraft as like a an educational tool, but it really is. And I think like learning about digital heritage really opened up a lot of historical study potential for me. So that's one of my projects that I've been working on. If you want to go to the next slide, that'll be my other project. So, like I said, I'm a psychology major. This project here, exploring the influences of epistemic curiosity and self-regulated learning on student engagement with large language models. That is a very fancy academic way of saying, basically, I'm asking how are students using AI in their education. Epistemic curiosity is a fancy way of saying, does the curiosity disposition that some students come to school with, does that influence maybe how they're using these technologies? So I was really interested in student behavior as it relates to the adoption of LLMs in learning, because I feel like that's such a big big question right now, and there's a lot of new emerging literature. So this is actually my honors project in psychology. That's sort of my big, like, I guess, capstone, or like my big senior project, I guess. So I designed a study. I did a very thorough literature review about everything that exists regarding student AI use, and maybe like some of the concerns that are surrounding it. So there's a lot of literature about how maybe it could reduce critical thinking. There's concerns about appropriate academic conduct and ethical uses. So I kind of wanted to draw an understanding about what characteristics do people come with, or what skills can we teach them that might predict better academic integrity with AI tools? How can we make sure that we are giving students the tools to use this new kind of unprecedented technology effectively? Because the truth is that it's accessible and it's available, and because of that, students are going to use it. So we want to make sure that we have knowledge and insight about how we can make sure that they're using it effectively and in a way that keeps learning and education meaningful. I care, as somebody that's going into school counseling, I care a lot about the integrity of our education systems. I'm a very big proponent of like making sure that, you know, everybody has access to education and learning effectively. Um, so I think that further research on this is going to be very important. So my study was basically, I found these, again, this is very new research. So I found these new scales that had been published like last year, and I compared them. They measured self-regulated learning. That's basically the technical skills that students are applying. Are they like critically assessing AI outputs? Are they like cross-checking information, or are they just like accepting whatever it creates? That's sort of like critical engagement, really. And I also measured for epistemic curiosity. Do students that have higher curious dispositions maybe engage differently than those who have lower curiosity? And then the variable that I wanted to see, like if it was affected by anything, was academic integrity. So are students aware of the institutional policy around AI use? Are they adhering to it? Are they like crediting use of AI where necessary? And what I found was that while epistemic curiosity itself was not a significant predictor, those self-regulated learning skills really were. And the good news about that is that those are generally teachable skills that we can, you know, do work to bestow upon our students, so that they can really understand the technology, how it works, and how they can use it to benefit themselves. There's a lot of discourse around AI. There's a lot of literature emerging from philosophy fields about like its ethics, and I think that this is a conversation that's very much evolving. But I think it is, you know, important and utilitarian to examine it as a tool right now. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to for my research.
It's phenomenal, Kira. It's really incredible work. And I learned the phrase epistemic curiosity today. So that's my learning of the day. So I
Fantastic.
appreciate that. So tell me a little bit about, you've done these two very hefty research projects. How do you feel it's enhanced your learning, set you up for what's next in your life after your undergraduate degree is done? Because fortunately, I'm happy to report that Kira has decided to stay with us for her graduate education. And we're very grateful that they made that decision for themselves. So,
Yes, that's a really great question. As far as my work with Dr. Moutre on nuns and history, I would say that that has enhanced my learning by just encouraging me to, I guess, embrace sort of like the stranger interest that I develop that I otherwise might be like, oh, like I don't really know if I want to like do something substantial with this. I feel like that has really opened me up to like, okay, I'm interested in something. Let's pursue this, and better yet, let's pursue this in a way that's interesting to me, because I think that, there is of course utility in writing papers and making like traditional products that demonstrate learning, but I do think that integrating creativity and academics is going to be so important moving forward because of the work that I'm doing about epistemic curiosity and AI and sort of how the educational landscape is evolving, because we're going to have to get really creative about how we continue to assess learning. And when you have bots everywhere that can like create traditional products that we used to rely on for assessment, I think it's going to require educators to get really creative and innovative with how we address education. And I think that that is a question that I've been interested in for a long time. I think that technology has been evolving for a while, and it's important that our educational institutions can keep up. And I'm really hoping that by entering that field as a professional, I can sort of help steer some reform and some change. And I think that I want students to be curious. I want them to feel like they are doing meaningful work in a world that's kind of just unpredictable, and we don't really know what's ahead of us. But I think encouraging curiosity, encouraging an understanding of these tools, like that is going to be paramount, and having people entering the field that know those things is going to be really important. So I'm hoping that I can provide this background in my future work.
awesome. Thank you so much, Kira. We appreciate your work. All right. It looks like Dua, you are next up.
Okay, great. So my name is Dua. I am a sophomore undergrad student at Sage. My major is health sciences, and I'm on the pre-dental track. I'd like to graduate Sage with my bachelor's of science and then matriculate into dental school. I'm still looking into residency options between being a general dentist and or also becoming an oral maxillofacial surgeon or going just down the route of research. I had never really done research before until I was introduced to the C-STEP summer research program. So I joined C-STEP my freshman year at Sage, and what it was is there's an 8-week summer program that allows C-STEP students to apply and do research that is mentored under a specific faculty member that signs up to do that. So my faculty mentor was Dr. Ray. She was also my advisor initially because I used to be a biology major, but I switched to health sciences. And over those 8 weeks, we did research about CRISPR gene editing and the current political climate. So this was a modified meta-analysis that I did instead of in lab work, since I would not have the time to get any IRBs over the short span of time. But I really appreciated this research opportunity because it has opened so many doors for me to be able to get into internships and other research programs. But throughout like our 8 weeks, we would gather data and make annotated bibliographies of what CRISPR gene editing is, what applications it's been used for in lab and outside of the laboratory setting, and what people in the United States have thought about CRISPR, specifically before and after the COVID-19 pandemic. Initially, I heard about CRISPR gene editing when I was in middle school. I believe around 2013, it became very popular with a Chinese researcher, He Jiankui, experimenting on twin embryos to make them HIV resistant or cure them of HIV. And initially that brought up the question of, is this ethical, and should we be allowed to do this? And overall, he ended up going to prison for what he did. It was against the law in China, but that brings up the question of, what are we allowed to do with this new developing technology? How much are scientists allowed to research it, especially when many scientists get their funding from the government? And the government is obviously swayed by what the public thinks is okay based on who they elect into office, and all those decisions about budget cuts and what research is funded is it changes every couple of years based on what the public is thinking. So I really wanted to integrate the current political climate. I looked at the most recent data I could find. I did this research in the summer of 2025, and I was able to find data from the years 2024, 2023, 2022, and before COVID, and around 2015, 2016, just to compare what the public had thought, and different demographics of the public, whether it varied by education, if they had graduated high school, gotten a bachelor's, PhD, master's, or if they were religious, what their gender was, if they were parents or not, and just overall differences like that could influence people's opinions, especially since my specific topic was also looking into the in utero aspect. So being able to see if CRISPR could successfully cut out genetic point mutations in fetuses while they are still in the womb, because many diseases, unfortunately, they just have to be caught before a baby is born, otherwise they are fatal. So certain neurological diseases where there is just a singular point mutation in the DNA that can be cut out by allowing CRISPR to flow into the amniotic fluid of a pregnant person to get into the fetus and cut out that mutation, and seeing what the risks are and the mortality rates. And overall, most of my data for how successful CRISPR gene editing was on mice in labs. There have not been very many public appearances of CRISPR, aside from there was a baby in, I believe, Philadelphia that was given a specialized CRISPR treatment because of a disease that would have initially been fatal, but so far after the treatment, it seems like it was quite successful with not as many side effects as expected. But I had presented my research at the C-STEP Summer Research Symposium and the Niche Symposium, and I will also be at Undergraduate Research Day as well. But overall, my research is not necessarily very connected to my future career aspirations. However, I was just very happy to be able to engage in this. And since I have done this research, I've presented it twice, and I've been able to use this as a way to build connections with other professors to continue to conduct research. Like Dr. Ray, I was able to get in contact with her to have letters of recommendation and to just overall build a larger network. But without lab work, I was not able to conduct actual gene editing experiments. However, I still think it goes to show that a significant event like COVID-19 had created a lot of distrust in scientists, especially in regards to something as experimental as CRISPR. And so what I found in my data was that after COVID, there was a steep and significant drop in support for scientists and funding of CRISPR gene editing research, along with discourse that the general public, feels quite disconnected to scientists and the government in general, which brings up the question of how do we bridge that gap and allow the general public to feel more comfortable with these new treatments and basically allow them to understand what is actually going on, because a large problem that I saw when looking at what millions of people in the general public were saying based off of data was that they felt like they could not really communicate effectively with scientists based off the vocabulary that was being used and based off of just the approachability to certain topics like this. Another question that brought up is the ethics of completely eradicating certain disabilities and neurological diseases. There were many ethical and moral questions and literature written by people who are in uh, disabled communities because they themselves were born with a disability. And what they feel like is going to happen is that if CRISPR becomes a nationally available treatment in the United States, it's going to create a larger gap between people who are not disabled and people who are disabled, whether it's physically or mentally. And another concern that this brought up was the financial impact this was going to have. Whether or not this was going to be affordable for Americans, or if this was going to create a larger wealth gap between people of higher socioeconomic statuses who can afford to get this treatment versus people of lower socioeconomic statuses who may not be able to get this treatment and are instead left with a scarring disability, which already lacks accessibility in the United States, or if they will be able to treat this in the future. So I really enjoyed my time with my research, and it has opened a lot of doors for me. I had a great time.
And Dua, when you talk about the doors that it's opened for you, could you give some examples of what you've seen happen? I know you were selected for a pretty wonderful program at Albany Medical College as well to explore healthcare careers. Do those sorts of things, the research, does that matter in terms of getting those kinds of opportunities?
I believe it does because when I was applying to the Albany Medical College Achieve internship, it is a C-STEP program. However, I had to submit my entire resume and also, I believe, gain letters of recommendation. So having a strong relationship with my faculty mentor, Dr. Ray, was quite important in that. And also because the Albany Medical College internship, um, it's fairly new. So being able to differentiate my resume as a sophomore with research feels a lot better to me because I was able to go from C-STEP research at Sage to opening doors and making connections with people at Albany Med. And then recently, I was able to use my prior research experience to be able to gain a new research position at the University of Buffalo this summer.
Wow. Congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
So you had said that C-STEP was the first time that you had really done anything like this in terms of research. I always wonder, because we emphasize it in some of our marketing to high school students looking at college. And I think, do 17 and 18-year-olds really think that that's great? Like, that's really fun to do? Like, what were your thoughts and your kind of maybe preconceived notions about what it would be coming in versus what you then discovered was valuable about it?
I mean, as a STEM major, I am already just very interested in research in general, but I could definitely understand how um, it might seem difficult or almost like not worth applying to. But overall, I really think there's a unique community at Sage, especially in the C-STEP program. My research mentor, Dr. Ray, she is such a spunky lady and she loves scientific innovation and fostering scientific curiosity. So I wasn't really thinking about research as a high schooler. However, as a college student, this was during the summer of my freshman year. I guess it all really depends what you want to get out of this research, whether it's just something you want to put on your resume or it's just something that you really want to try out and see if this is like a future career path you can get, or if it's just a one time thing and you decide that you've changed your mind about your future career.
Great. Thank you. And congrats on the summer internship. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Next up is John. We'll let you take over.
Hello. As a quick question, is the slide with our like poster supposed to be up still or no? It is perfect. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. So my name is Jonathan Reese. I am a psychology English double major here at Sage. I'm a graduating senior, if I didn't already say that, and I am planning on going into, I want to say, into novel writing in the future, move towards the New York Times potentially as a published journalist. And then from there, after I pay off my loans, my pathway splits into either going into constitutional law or getting a master's in the fine arts for writing and then becoming a professor. It mainly just comes down to how it all plays out. For undergraduate research day, I am presenting 4 times. The rev is not currently up there because I did not know that was considered a part of undergraduate research day, but I would like to start with that briefly. So for the rev, which is our magazine, I'm going to be presenting a second person story based off of the Sublime. And I wanted to focus in on tragedy and the idea of fear, but also beauty as a part of that, which I learned from my Bricklet 201 class. And along with that, I'm presenting a second published writing for the Rev as a sidebar, which I actually have excerpted if you'd like to hear it later, which is about the sublime again, focused more on fairy tales and the idea of just nature being beautiful. Moving into the actual post presentation I'm doing, it's called Elric to Eldritch, and it is me tracing the etymology of the term Eldritch from when it first originated into contemporary literature. Currently, Eldritch horror is a genre of horror which is in line with weird horror or just generalized like cosmic horror, the ideas of the unknown and what is against human nature. And I looked back at it and I found that there was very little trace of the word. In fact, it only appeared around 7 times prior to becoming big in H.P. Lovecraft's work. And so the crux of my argument is that what inspired the work of H.P. Lovecraft to then make such a big genre shift in horror, to create cosmic horror as such a big cultural point in the writing, comes from Moby Dick. And the reason that I came up with that is for a brief bit of like history. And I have my thing on the side right now. In around 15, no, yes, in around 1580, the term was used in an epic poem about sailing, discussing ferries, and it was called Elric. Moving forward from there, it disappeared for over 400 years, just completely unknown. The word wasn't used, and it came back up later on in Romantic Age poetry, or so I guess 300 years, slightly before Romantic Age poetry, only to then disappear again until Coleridge wrote it in Ram the Ancient Mariner, used to describe the ghost ship. What makes it fun, in my opinion, is that it's an archaism that was originally written as an archaism. Elric never existed originally. The poet made it up to sound older than he actually was in his writing, so it would sound more prolific. Moving forward, then, when Coleridge wrote Ram the Ancient Mariner, he again used it as an archaism, trying to make his work sound older, only for it to be completely scrapped in the second draft because he got criticized for using too many of them, which is why the term slowly disappeared. Then, if we go into Moby Dick, we can see all these themes continuing to come back up from the term Elric. We have boats and the idea of mythology, the idea of God and religion coming up, the unknown and what happens when you try to chase it. The main ending, well, not the main ending, the ending of Moby Dick comes when the people who sought out the unknowable so often died, whereas Ishmael, our main character, actively did not seek out Moby Dick. He felt the obsession that everyone else did, but he more chronicled what was going on and decided to take a step back while he rode on the ship, and therefore he was the only survivor. When we move forward to contemporary horror and the idea of Lovecraft's work with the weird and the unknown, the main thing that comes up continually is that if you chase the unknown, if you chase something you are not supposed to see, you will be driven insane, driven to death and suicide, or you will not be able to comprehend what happens at all, in which case it will then take advantage of you. So you can see this theme slowly tracing itself from the 1500s all the way up into contemporary literature today, where it then makes its widespread like theme and genre known throughout video games, books, movies such as The Void or The Color Out of Space, which is an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft, and just general conversation currently. I found it to be an extremely fun project to work on, and I presented that at the niche conference. Then, moving on, I have my psychology capstone paper, which is a complete 180 from the research. I based it off of cults because I was working with the Eldritch, and I thought that'd be a good way to like tie in what I already knew. But then I realized that there's very little discussion on. Sorry, my phone is going off, and I need it to not be. Give me one moment. Thank you. My bad. I didn't realize I'd have to silence it. What ended up happening is there wasn't much research on cult persuasive methods, at least not in regards to people and how they were persuaded. It came more down to the tactics used by the cult leaders. And while that was important, it wasn't what I wanted to research because my end goal with this literary analysis was to see how people are mostly conveyed, like not conveyed, persuaded through arguments other people make. And breaking that down, I looked into AI and how people are currently persuaded in marketing via AI compared to real people, and how politics are able to market themselves to other people via their messages and what they want people to agree with versus disagree with or potentially even villainize. And what I found with that literature review is that a lot of persuasive methods come down to expectations and trust in an individual. If I were to go to, say, a human and an AI, this is a research study that I worked on, or not study that I worked on, but study that I read. And I was going to say, well, the AI is going to be more factual. If it were to present to me an argument that was based entirely off of the design of, say, a car and how it worked and functioned, I would be more inclined to buy that than if a human did. Whereas if a human were to say, well, my experience driving a car is that it was really good off road, it got me through a storm or a potential issue that arose, I would be more persuaded to buy from the human instead. And it's because my expectations aligned with what was being marketed to me. That's the exact same for politics as well. That's why if you look at, say, the Democratic and the Republican Party and you have a list of bullet points of what they stand for, if you're marketed those things, you are more likely to agree with what they say. Whereas if an outlier or a contrarian in the party were to give their own ideas of what they want to change, they would more than likely not meet the vote expectations just because they're not meeting what the voters wanted to hear. Moving forward from that presentation, I also wrote a novel this semester because I don't know when to stop. That is going to be my honors project pseudo capstone. It's not technically titled a capstone, but I do need it to graduate, so I'm counting it anyway. It is based off of my Myths and Legends class, along with a research a research presentation that I did for my Jane Austen class, based on fairy tales and how they have moral like issues that arise and how they need to continually end with the good guys winning. And it's also a pseudo creation story based off Germanic folk tales. In the story, to be more specific about the actual genre, it is a literary gender horror following a person who is a tree that is forcefully turned into a human, almost like a pseudo Pinocchio, or but except they need to adapt to being a human and figure out what it means to live as one when they didn't intend for that to happen. It ties back into nature. That's a continual theme in a lot of my work. And it's just how do we find and feel ourselves amidst the changes that happen, even when we cannot control them, and then move forward with our lives and still refine control. I use a lot of my psychology degree as well to try to incorporate that into the characters and their like slow arcs and journeys. It is technically a novella of around 300,000 words, and it's in the middle of revision 2 currently. And then I believe that is it for everything I'm presenting. Would you like me to read that excerpt from my Rev story, or would you like me to just pass on that? I don't know how our timing is working.
No, you can go ahead. That'd be great.
Perfect. Okay. So this is titled He Who Is Warmth. This is not the second person story, by the way. This is the one that's focused more on the beauty of nature rather than the sublime and potential fear of nature. There sat in the middle of an open, empty field, a child curled in at rest. His head lay in his hands, while his little nose breathed the sweet scent of dandelion's bed. The sun would warm the child at dawn, and with the company of morning light it would stand. Tracing the edge of the glade were rows of dense forest. Overgrown roots, dried cones, thorny branches, all dissuaded the child from leaving. Birds would perch on unnested branches and watch impatiently. Some days they would see him bite into a pine cone before spitting out small, rigid chunks. On the warmest days of that summer, the child would go to the small body of sunlit water and dance to the sounds of the chirping. Hopping forward, splashing left and then right, the water staved off the thirst, the sun gifted comfort, and the birds sang nature's melody. It's the nights after those days swimming I hold closest. The sun would sink below the tree-lined horizon. The birds would stop their song and go to their nests. The water would cool and relax. It was then, in a yellow bed, under low hung dark, that the child would rest next to me. His face would curl, and his head would lay upon his hooks. Ease would find home in his face, and my beloved would dream of elsewhere. This child, my child, will one day grow up and leave our field of grass and flowers. But for now, I feel his warmth on my back and know he is here. I hope in the days nearing my baby's end, he will return to lay next to me one last time. So as my paint fades in the sunlight and my hollow body becomes a shelter from the rain, I will forever remember what it must have been like to be alive. And as a brief author's note, the story is about a hunting target and a deer that's been shot and emptied via bullets with a baby laying next to it in the sun.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you sharing that. I really loved you said something earlier about how your psychology studies informed your fictional work that you did. And I think that's such an important thing to understand about writers, right? That whether you're a journalist for the New York Times or someone writing a novella, there's research involved to really truly understand what you're writing. So could you talk a little bit about, you've done so much research here at Russell Sage. Could you talk a little bit about how did it inform John as a person? Like, do you feel like you learned and grew from your experiences?
So the reason that I took up so many extracurricular projects was because I wanted to really challenge myself. I felt that for a lot of my classes, there was a lot of interest in what I was doing, but there was still the mundanity of like going to classes, doing my finals, leaving the classes. And I wanted to go the extra step. And I feel like I've learned a lot about myself in doing so because I realized I can overcome those challenges I put up for myself, even when it is a lot of all-nighters and a lot of work. There was a point in this semester where I did not think I would finish any of these. And then I read Moby Dick in 2 days and didn't think that was possible. So I feel like it taught me a lot about how I can time manage, a lot about how I can turn studies from one subject into another. Those can inform me because if you look at it, all of these in some way tie into each other. And then from there, I was able to build up that confidence in that if I set my mind to something, I can do it. And I feel like that translates to the entirety of the student body. As long as you're passionate and you enjoy what you're doing, and you do need to enjoy what you're doing. I would not have done this if I didn't like it. You can accomplish anything you want to, and then build connections off of that and be a part of a webinar and talk about it.
That's awesome. Thank you, John. I'm going to open that same question up to Dua and Kira because I'm curious, in terms of a personal growth, professional growth as you work toward becoming professionals in the world and grad students or all the next steps for, wherever you're going. Can you talk about that and how maybe your research impacted you as people? They're deciding who to unmute.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead. That's a really good question. I will say that when I transferred to Sage, I do feel like I lacked a lot of research confidence. It seemed like a very big, scary beast that was kind of outside of my capacity. I really didn't feel like I believed in myself enough to like really understand how research worked or to do any of that on my own. It was actually when I took research methods with Dr. Julie Verrett Lindenbaum, shout out, she very much heightened my confidence, and I feel like that class really gave me the vocabulary, the understanding, the like directly applicable skills to conduct research. And I think it is really important to have, like John was saying, that belief in yourself that you can do those things, and that things like Undergraduate Research Day are really, really good opportunities to practice and kind of get ready to do more of that in your life. So I really think that these experiences have, again, molded my like belief in myself, and also given me the confidence to pursue my interests, even if they're weird, even if I end up building little nuns in Minecraft. Like, there's learning that you could extract from so many different places, and I think that the beauty of learning and education is to do that and make your learning pursuits fun, and that has been a very important part of my growth as a researcher, I think.
I love that you were so bold in being so creative in that research approach with the nuns. Like, were you a little worried about that? You're like, oh, I'm going to bring this to my professors. Like, what are they going to say? I want to build, nuns in Minecraft.
Um, it was definitely a little, a little bit. I think because it was a creative project and Minecraft is one of the ways that I've been most creative in my life. I sort of saw that as like a direct relation. And it's fun too because something that a lot of people don't know about me is that going to school in Vermont, Vermont has been making a lot of strides with what's called project-based learning. So they basically the state says here are all the things that a graduate needs to be able to do by the time that they graduate, and it's like these sets of standards, and then the way that project based learning works in a lot of times is that the student will say, okay, I'm going to show that I can create a persuasive argument on something. Like that might be an example of a standard. And then they actually design a project around that. And that is how I earned one of my pathways to graduation for high school in 2020 is I had two transcripts. One was the standard one that everybody kind of thinks of when they think of transcripts, and one was a project-based one. So I had already had a lot of weird projects like that under my belt from high school, but I had never really had an opportunity to do that in my higher education. Higher education was still very like essays, like forum posts, that kind of thing. And so this project was a little strange, but it also brought me back to sort of some learning that I had done a long time ago and had been like a very big advocate for. I think project-based learning is like a wonderful, wonderful thing that does bring a lot of transferable skills with it. So yes and no, it felt like kind of a return to form for me a little bit, and that felt really good. I loved being able to do that in my class.
Awesome. Your future students, when you're a school counselor, will be very lucky that you have such a creative approach to learning things. So it's awesome. Dua, do you want to share anything about sort of your research experience from a sort of personal transformations view?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, as I said before, this was my first research experience, and I was pretty nervous about what academics were going to be like going from such a small high school to college as a freshman. And I had never really written anything in such a scientific format before. I hadn't really met a lot with my faculty mentor, so I was getting to know her. I was getting to know how to write scientifically, and I also had three other people in my C-STEP summer research program doing their own individual projects. And so, what it really taught me was that I don't really have as much to be scared of. I didn't have as much to be scared of. I'm not saying it wasn't difficult, but it definitely wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. Everyone is so approachable and nice at Sage. There are so many supports when it comes to academic like advising and just like learning how to write. There are tutors, there are people who want to help you and see you succeed. And so it really helped me manage some stress and anxiety. And also, I really liked my topic. Initially, I was having a hard time coming up with a topic. I was like, does it have to go in this direction? Or does it have to go in that direction? I was like, how am I going to do this? So I came up with my topic pretty quickly, and it was approved by my faculty mentor. And we had such a great time figuring out what direction to go in specifically. I still got to be very independent, but Dr. Ray was definitely guiding me in the right direction. She's so experienced as a researcher, and she's been doing C-STEP summer research for years and years. So she loves seeing students build their resumes and build connections and stuff like that. And so I'm just very happy about how it all worked out. I love the paper that I wrote. I also initially had quite a big fear about public speaking. The first time I've ever presented a research poster was at the C-STEP Summer Research Symposium in the summer of 2025. I think it was in July. And oh my gosh, it was like my biggest fear ever. There was like, it wasn't even like a big crowd of people, but there was like a sizable amount of people. And it was me and my three other classmates who were presenting. And it didn't go as well as I wanted it to, but over time, it's been months and months, and I've presented again. I'm just learning to build confidence. I know what my research is about, and I have built confidence that I am competent and that I can talk to people and engage with them about this research in a positive way. So I'm excited to see what else comes in the future.
And that's big stuff. A lot of our students at Sage, because of the fields we serve, end up going into graduate programs, and having academic confidence is really critical to that because that's a level up from what they were used to as undergrad. So I'd imagine, Sarah, being able to do this kind of work is a very good next step, sort of prep as well, right? Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about that, Sarah?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the confidence, you can just, how many students you know would jump on a webinar and speak about their research experience? I mean, this is the definition of confidence right here in these three shining star students. I mean, we couldn't be more prouder. And that's what's we're a safe place to try out academic things like CRISPR. I mean, listen to what you're talking about, novel CRISPR, AI. I mean, we're jumping into these really relevant, interesting topics and doing it justice. I just love hearing students talk. Thank you so much.
And Sarah, do we invite the public in? I mean, if our alum wanted to come and see some of this work at Research Day, they're invited to come in and see it at the Armory.
I mean, I have no problem with that. We've had some students have invited family members to come.
Mhm.
So they certainly have had my husband comes. I mean, people, I think they're welcome to come. We don't advertise it publicly,
Mhm.
but we're celebrating our students'
Alumni
work.
know you're welcome to come.
Yes.
We'll probably post this video on social prior to Undergraduate Research Day. So people will be able to see and hear all the great stuff you've talked about and may want to come and see it for themselves. I will say I'm always blown away walking through. I don't know what half the posters mean because it's so like I can't believe how technical some of the research is. It's really exciting. So it's a really great time to learn as well. Dua, I wanted to ask you specifically because you had talked about, not having time for your C-STEP project to get IRB approval and do like the actual kind of bench type work, true hands-on kind of experimentation. Is that something, since you are a sophomore and you have some time with us, is that something you're looking at for down the road?
Absolutely. I would love to get into a lab. I initially I had I knew from the start that there was not going to be IRB approval for any kind of project in the C-STEP program since it was 8 weeks, and now recently it's been condensed to 6 weeks for this upcoming summer. And so I would love to well, doing research with Dr. Ray, she has connected me with other professors who are very willing to do in-lab work. So I could definitely do that for my capstone. I could do more summer research, or I could definitely just do this during the semester. I'd love to focus on anything dental related, maybe the oral microbiome. And I have been discussing it with a couple professors to see what options are available and what I can do in the future.
That's wonderful. So it sounds like most of you have been bitten by the research bug. Are you constantly like learning new things and like, I could do, maybe that's my grad school project I'll work on or something else. Like, do you find yourself sort of looking at the world differently as well?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Like I have gotten into the habit of uh okay, I have a mild curiosity about this really trivial random thing in my life, and then I'm just like knee deep in Wikipedia articles, like looking through different um studies that have been done around that. Like it is so truly like again, I'm just a nerd. So like I really like fixate on things. I've been learning a lot about queer history, which has been really great. I have a couple of projects about the role of lesbian activists during the AIDS epidemic that I'm working on. I'll actually have a poster about that at Undergraduate Research Day too that I'm doing with a group. So if you're interested in that, come take a look. But like yes, I'm going down so many rabbit holes, and it is fantastic and really really fulfilling work.
That's awesome. You're not a nerd, Kira. Like there is a positive psychology has a strengths inventory, and one of the strengths is love of learning. And I'm going to send you that assessment link so you
Yeah.
can read it because I'd be very curious. I think you might be way up at the top with the strength of love of learning.
When I say nerd, I do mean that positively. Like, yes, absolutely.
Um, Does anyone else have anything they would love to share before we wrap up?
I just want to thank the students for making time out of their day. It's a very busy time of the semester, and they're here sharing their stories. We couldn't be prouder. I took notes, fun, confidence, networking, so many great bullet points from all you shared today. So thank you so much.